Hey, it is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on the dynamics, on the scenario, on the trap when someone find themselves either in a relationship, attracted, in proximity to, or having exposed a psychopath. So it seems to be kind of a hot topic that is coming up. So we want to zoom in and focusing in on that, sort of the red flags, and then sort of how does that lifestyle impact others, and how does it impact mental health, and what does it mean, and how is it possible to move forward, and how to identify it, when is it time, and how to cut the ties and let go for good. And before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated to the channel. DJ, so great to hear from you all the way from Austria. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, I'm so glad that you found the channel. And like so many viewers, it's important to find a place in the privacy of your heart where you can thread through some things, where you can kind of really work through. And I don't want to say play through, but that too, work and play through some identifications when things get difficult, when things get scary, when things get unstable. And perhaps they're playing and exasperating on instability within the human heart. The interspecies predator, the psychopath, male or female. And when you find yourself, especially if you're attracted or finding yourself sort of inexplicably beyond a web, sort of really inundated, and you don't realize that you're drowning until you're gasping for air, until you're it's almost the feeling of is it too late until it's too late? There's a feeling of terror, a feeling of torture, a feeling of betrayal, of shock. These are our negative emotions, very difficult to wrangle with on one's own. I mean, these are akin to some of the most devastating psychological, just uncomfortable feelings. And then to find yourself immersed in these, especially if it's been through a romantic, an intimate business or family member. In other words, there's, some connection really close at hand. And what if you find yourself attracted to this person, or really within that murky area, or wondering how and when to go, how to do this? How do you exit stage left? How do you, make your getaway on the next train and make a decision? And because making a decision oftentimes is very difficult. If you are attracted to a psychopath, you must understand that these individuals are, the manipulators. These are the people who appear one way and are not what they appear to be, even though they can be what you would think would take years to attain. So doctors, business owners, people with families, people with very large incomes, things that you would never guess, or there would be too many, you have too many accomplishments that you couldn't have gotten there in any other way. There's a lot of excuses that you subconsciously and others make for these people to keep these perpetrators and their ideologies in play, and the lifestyles, even from the top down. I mean, even your Facebooks, these are not run by your world peace leaders. Okay, these are people who are benefiting and profiting from others' extreme emotions. Okay, you have to be able to see the forest for the trees and gain some new eyesight. grow some new eyes, actually, literally, physically, and metaphorically. You yourself, but the vision also. When to understand that if you find yourself attracted, that oftentimes is beyond your will. That is what is so terrifying. And I think needs to be find a way out where you basically are knowing, and you're finding that you for some reason you find fulfillment or an identity that you don't feel that you have other than beyond this damaged way of relating. So a psychopath is someone really who will come on either very strong, but it'll be just sort of, out of the rafters of the angelic songs of whatever, the sweetest clouds, the sweetest blossoms, the strongest horse, the shiniest shining armor, whatever it is that grabbed hold of your heart. Listen to my words. Grabbed hold of your heart, grabbed hold of your focus, grabbed hold of your wonderfulness, all these wonderful qualities that you then felt you were exemplifying. They were basically just putting on a table for their banquet of witnessing so they can kind of learn, study, mimic, and repeat and basically just use in their mimicking repertoire. So it's to understand that these people do not have a heart. They do not have humanity. They do not care. They do not have concern for things like their children, their animals, any children. It's hard to fathom. You cannot get a grasp, nor should you even try to. It's like an alligator. If you were to see an alligator come to the door, you would rapidly know you don't want to date or marry that thing, especially if you thought it was an attractive female. If you saw what was really lurking, or if you really knew if that person really wore their heart on a sleeve, like they will make believe, they're the clumsy, all the different, we're going to get into that, but you must understand right now that what you see is not what you get. You must, and don't try to, process this with your mind and try to understand it cognitively, because oftentimes that will lead to being stuck, a paralysis, paralysis. You're like a fawn, in total shock, and that's a very uncomfortable place when you're just you just can't figure things out, and you're terrified. You found something out, but you find that maybe you're in that you're wanting to fight for it, or if you're still wanting to sort of you're still attracted and trying to find how can you figure things out and get sort of the dirt from underneath your nails, and just being like, how do I do this? Well, if you must understand that these individuals, no matter how accomplished, okay, if you think of someone who, and I'm not saying toil a reputation, but from someone who, other than, this person, if you could never fathom, you just could, it wouldn't compute. So that's the level you just have to assign it to. This doesn't compute, and nor do you have to. So part of the whole erroneous, flawed thinking is thinking that you have to compute and find out what you did wrong to analyze and repair and sort of have closure. So that's sort of the normal mindset when you're in a relationship with a psychopath. But these individuals, you must understand that what they have put forth is not who they are, no matter how convincing. A doctor, how could you fake being a doctor? A mother, how could you fake being a mother? A father, how could you fake being a father? Just it goes on down the list. How could you? Well, and that's where you're getting stuck, see, because there is no answer. So if you're finding yourself stuck, chances are because there ain't no answer in the 8 ball. there isn't an answer. See, that's the whole, you know, thought cloud that they want you to get stuck in denial, numb, and sort of not seeing your own feet, your own hands, and your own good self, your own good heart. They try to turn sort of and create a blindness to self-worth, but you don't realize that, you know, in other words, if you can get how you need to get a very strong image, where if it were to be beyond doubt. So if you can access right now, where have you ever been beyond a doubt that, you know, I just feel beyond a doubt. So if that feeling, if you're still looking to anchor that down, like beyond a doubt. So in other words, you're really sick of living this way and you can't figure things out, and it's just drama beyond drama, and you're really exasperated. You've got other kids involved. Things are getting really ugly, and you've had maybe a lot that you've already lost. You know, so that loss, what will keep you there? You know, I want to regain. You know, so a lot of these computations, you're going to need to let slide. You know, when you're sort of vacillating on those different, you know, you might have all these investments, and together, or time, or memories, or I can't move on. So you have these false self-limiting beliefs which will keep you sort of in that really, just that finger hold, trying to figure things out. And it's like holding on to the wrong place. It's like holding on to an empty garbage bag and wondering why it's not holding anything. It's because these individuals, what you see is not what you get. So even though you might not have an ability to be, and don't define it as good, as slick, as smart, gotten away with it, gotten away with murder, got away with the best years of my life, my kids, you have to sort of realize, that if you, all those sort of computations that are adding up to a lot of emotional warfare for you, and sometimes doesn't calculate, and people want to go back and recover and figure out what they need to correct about themselves to closure. If you, man or woman, were dating this individual, or this boss or this family member, instead of being what they were, if you were to literally see a cold 12-foot alligator that came squirming down the hall, stood up on its hind tail, and came lunging at you with a 10-foot open mouth, like in teeth larger than you've ever seen before, would you know to shut the door? Or would you analyze it to figure it out if its jump was going to be good enough? Or were you second guessing yourself? I mean, in other words, beyond the shadow of a doubt, if you could slam the door in that instance, then that's what you need to do. You need to slam the door. The alligator, the 10 to 12 foot alligator, is not the beautiful woman, is not the gentle, kind man, is not the one who's trying to, you and them against the world together, and you're going to take on whatever, or you're going to enjoy this fantasy. Listen, it's so those are the sort of that really where you can't see anything else. See, that's where they get people up, and you have to basically drop the magnifying glass and say, okay, I don't need to look. Okay, my own eyes are good and strong enough. In fact, they're even stronger. And so so if you can access some new, I feel it's very important, even people who have been attracted and developed a lot of instability. In other words, you might have had, sort of a lot of instability before, and you thought this person ironed you out, made you whole, made you balanced, made you Superman, finally pulled out your inner genius, or however you gave them a world claim of fame, or whatever you gave them credit for. Oftentimes, you're not assigning credit and taking full responsibility for your own goodness. You're seeing certain things that they have cultivated into the relationship. A psychopath, they don't have a conscience. So literally, what you would think that would make you warm, or anything that you would think as a person, kind, humanity, if you just think about those things for a moment, the American flag, like liberty, what a lot of people truly work for, which these are null and void states for a psychopath. So that hard work, that just in other words, you need to access a new repertoire of feelings within you that the psychopath, they do not have. Okay, so why do they get up so close and personal? Because they're bored. They have an easy propensity to boredom. They have a different, and we can go into, if you want to go into the physical components, why of the brain, their neurochemistry, their perception on things is not what is maybe in your heart, in your mind, and things, and then they know that, and then so they use that to their advantage and to others' disadvantage. So it's hard to believe when it's always to an other's disadvantage, especially when you can say, well, there was this and this and this, so but you're not giving yourself some credit. See, that's part of the whole uncomputing. It doesn't make any dollar and cents. It doesn't make any time value sense. Things that you might have had sort of linear progressions previous in your life that you're trying to evaluate this by. So what I'm trying to convey in the message of this video is that those sort of calculations, they don't factor in moving on. Okay, if you were to see on the first date, if you were to see you would have no doubt. You could say, no, this is not my date. This is an alligator. You have to literally, figuratively, and understand that you are dealing with someone who is cold-blooded. Oh, but peace and harmony, I live with this person. I see these people who are on trial in June for the Idaho murders, and this guy is eerily calm, and he's studying criminology, and he couldn't have had the capacity to do that either. How could that little vegan, okay, do you see how there's a very, maybe you didn't want to learn about this, okay? Well, then let's make it simple, okay? If you can understand what it means to have not a conscience, so you have to then understand in some of the other senses to help you heal and get a picture to sort of help you to tap into your own inner healing, because it's very difficult to go to someone at the grocery store and go, oh my God, have you ever had this happen? And they're going to be like, I'm happily, or I've got, it's very difficult to check these sort of experiences out with people. So a lot of the times they go unchecked. They just go without reality testing. And someone who is a psychopath knows this. They use this to their advantage and to the disadvantage of others. And to the disadvantage, sometimes it's so in depth that people are too scared to visit it. Well, then let's go. Then you don't need to know the depth if that's all you need to know. Okay, been there, done that. Don't need the 3D glasses anymore. Throwing those out in the trash. Whatever it is, the glasses, the movie screen, throw those 3D glasses out and just be like, no, thank you. I'm going back. I got another vision. I got me some new eyeballs. I watched Peace and Harmony. You got a new heart. You finally came back into your own skin because it's actually warm there. A psychopath, so someone who's a psychopath, they are devoid of a conscience. So literally, and they will, ice water running through their veins. Okay, does that sound pleasant? Does that sound like someone you want to be married to, male or female? man or woman, okay, if they would have told you that right from the beginning, this would have been an easy decision. They don't tell you, I'm going to take advantage, I'm going to abuse, I'm going to manipulate, I'm going to defraud you, I'm going to tell you lies, I'm going to withhold information. They don't tell you all that. I mean, if so, you'd be like, how can I move? Where's my next ticket? I'm rationally, you in your heart would be clear. You would be in alignment, and your head would be clear, and you'd be on top of one another, and you wouldn't have encountered. But even if the encounter has been more than 10 years, 20 years, or maybe for a long time, or a crucial, you might have lost a wedding ring, or lost a bank account, or lost certain things. It's a gain to acknowledge and validate a loss. So one thing that really, and I'm going to go kind of back and forth here, so hopefully if you understand the viewership, I understand and go back and forth, but I want to go into healing right away and not stay on a trigger, because we're here for the healing, okay, and for our viewers. So to understand kind of like this is, and back and forth. So so you can understand and have a more sort of better understanding. I like to use the other senses so you can really compare it to something. And unless you were wanting to, you know, to, so that makes the decision easy. But then your mind will then try to automatically, your body is then sort of running things, because the psychopath will condition others to physically have eyes, have hands, have hearts, have ears for them. Even though the hurt is there, there's sort of a reward, a psychopath reward system that they will keep people tied in, tied on, going, back and forth, until you realize, you take off the 3D glasses, the psychopath glasses, and you go, holy, and you say, wow, this is going to devastate me. You might utter these things. This is devastating. Okay, I mean, so just when you think of devastating, you yourself in the physical are not devastated. You are not into crumbled 1,000, pieces. The experience that you had and what you're kind of thinking, that has crumbled, okay? That is what has crumbled into 1,000 pieces. That you can't really, when you're dealing with a psychopath, you're dealing with someone who is not what they seem. For example, in the news right now, there's someone who is behind bars for, the taking lives of 4 gorgeous young people. And, and there's a lot of parallels that we talk about here on the channel. And I don't know if I really want to use that quite yet, but you can see a lot of similarities. So I don't know if this is good or not, but, I think you'll see the parallels. But if you can understand that when an individual does not have a conscience, that's when, it's like an automatic safety brake. Like you don't have to, it's an automatic boundary that is built in, that you don't have to question. In other words, what would be terribly wrong? What would be cold, cruel, unkind? Into even the depths of more of the depths of that. For someone who is, and those are all embodied. So those are all embodied by someone who is a conscience. Oh, I wouldn't do that. That's your heart. That's your conscience. So those, if you can understand that entity, even though they appear, they're physical and certainly they don't have that wiring. They don't have that component or element within. And in other words, to the point that they can be very convincing. But the problem is that it it allows them to take advantage of and exploit and delude and sort of conjugate the thinking and sort of bundle up the thinking where it's not clear on the side of their target. So it's kind of like their way of doing a stun gun or something. They want people to be sort of in that sort of what I call the skunk aroma, where you can't see the door, your eyes are watering, you can't smell, you can't taste, you can't think, you're just in, if you've ever smelled a skunk or really really strong, I mean, I mean, it's that sort of severe. But even worse, sort of, when there's all sorts of other things like your income, your housing, your family, your business are tied, then to this. So you can see where the complications would be. And then the problem, though, is that oftentimes, because they have such a poker face, because their musculature, because their amygdala is smaller, they have reduced activity. They don't experience fear, so there would be nothing stopping them from just being like, oh, I want the keys to that car. Let me take that. I want that relationship. I can't have that. I want, but I have to pretend. They have to put on a decoy, pretend to be the husband, pretend to be a wife, pretend to be a secretary, pretend to be a boss, pretend to be a judge. How can you pretend? They pretend. They can study. They can learn things and then be something completely to the contrary, with a different tonation, cadence, timbre. So these people are kind of like, it's different than an actor. They're really metamorphosized. Even their coloring, their shape of their face, the color of their eyes even. How is this possible? Okay, well, there's different things going on in the brain, in which very, interesting. So that's why, they're not afraid of breaking somebody's heart. They're not afraid of letting someone down. They're not afraid of getting caught. There are certain consequences, so they don't have that fear, which is like, most people, hey, well, I wouldn't do that. That would be stupid, and it's like along those lines. So, and then they have to only pick up and go, oh man, people don't do that, man. And then they're like, I can kind of get through that. Like, I can kind of, because I don't have that worry, because I don't have that concern, because I look cool, I can handle a lot of stress, and I can go in and deal with this. So things that normally would cause people fear, anxiety, or love, or nervousness, pressure, I can't think under pressure. Those people, I mean, they're walking like through, the tulips. They can be just as calm as if they're just gonna get out a piece of toast from the toaster. And what's this? I mean, so they can very much find themselves in positions of mastery, CEO, directors of industry, your finance people who can go, oh, all these people will lose their homes, 680 million, but then I'm going to be able to sleep tomorrow. Okay, let's do it. I mean, those are the people who they're in certain industries. They don't, they're in Hollywood. They're in certain areas. They're all over. They're basically thought to be 1 to 4% of the population. What does that mean, though, to be attracted? Does it mean to be seduced? Do you have, and to fear, do you have an identity that is beyond seduction? Okay? Beyond the alligator, okay? If you need to get leverage and an understanding within that, that beyond the shadow of a doubt that you can trust what you've seen, felt, known. So it's oftentimes that this can't be happening. this sort of disbelief. This can't be happening. And then the mind and heart goes to find ways to, you know, and then to try to get that back, and try to win. That's the ego. Please don't tell me this is happening. This can't be so. Why after this? And you want to go through those computations. That's, when you get into that, you're still engaging the psychopath. You're still attracted. You're still on their terms of, of engagement, which are strictly not your own. If you really when you really understand the difference that, like Napoleon Hill, he talks about an alcoholic, and the point when he would draw the line, would be after like 2 drinks, and he would say, because I know after 3 I see what happens, and then I see not men drinking, but the bottle drinking the man. In other words, and that's kind of his 1920s sort of way, but he saw that then sort of things flipped, that the man was not in control. The woman is not in control of the drinking. You are not, does it make you scared to say you're not in control of the relationship? Well, good, because you don't want to be in control of that person. You want to have you. You want to have yourself. The thing that, in all the wonderful array of emotions that they don't have. See, why peace and harmony? Why did they use me? Well, because you have an abundance of qualities that they don't possess, so they can learn and study, pick up and use. I mean, that's what they do. That's just, and they pretend, but and so what's in akin to that? They will marry literally, like it's like a decoy. I mean, literally like a rubber ducky that you see that looks like a duck, a mallard duck. They're not married to that. That person is a decoy, to the extent that you can't believe that you don't need, how much more of your life do you want to go? I am in disbelief. In disbelief will give you disbelief. And so without a conscience, and then also it means also in their prefrontal cortex, where there's judgment, morality, discernment, and decision making, they don't have the same activity. So it also, so when it comes to like long-term planning, and you think, why would they just all of a sudden give up that long-term relationship and not have to ponder over it? Because their brain is not wired for that, okay? Their brain, you think, but we had all this. That's what you're thinking, feeling, and they know that. And then they'll be like, thinking, your erroneous thinking is that you think that everybody else thinks like you. So you're making that flawed thinking that the psychopath takes advantage of. That, if we work this hard, if we had these conversations, if we ate these things, if we spent these hours, if we had this, if we had that, it was, this is what movies are written about. This is what people get married for. This is, and then you find out, it's out the door. Well, you have to realize that if a psychopath, they don't have a conscience, and so it gives them the ability to really change relationships like you can change a hat, like you can change shoes. And it's sort of, I don't want to say it's easier for them, but that they can move very quickly through different groups of people and just sort of not stay attached or stay attached where it's fitting for them. So, for example, to get married because it would be better than living alone. The parasitic nature, meaning that they have to live on and host off of other people. And then other people will then have that sort of ocular vision of them. They're funny, they're this, And then so that's the public self. See, that's not the alligator that they're showing. Once in a while, you might see some alligator skin showing. You're going, man, that's some alligator skin on that person, guy or gal. That's a little too creepy, extreme. Or you might all of a sudden have a feeling like, well, why aren't you disturbed by this? Why aren't you stressed out? Why aren't you crying? Or, you'll have these questions. And it's because if there is someone who is psychopathic, they don't enter into those feelings. They don't have them. They don't run in the body. They don't have that air conditioning. They don't have that central air. They don't have that wind going. They can go, oh, it's cold in here. They can make believe, or oh my God, it's so hot, or oh, I'm so in love, or whatever. I mean, they can, and they will, I think, kind of push it out. Like they're just sort of like you hear in IT, they'll push out an update. I think that they kind of push it out is what they do, and then they don't. And then they have to keep it on for the people who they need to keep it on, and then they can drop it totally. And you cannot believe how can they simultaneously be alligator and a woman, alligator and a male, or, this doesn't make sense. Well, there we go. Okay. And so then stop making sense. Talking heads. Okay. It's not, you're not going to get there. You're not going to understand through that same process, if that makes sense. In other words, if you're looking at the bottom line, you're not going to, you have to look at the top line. And the top line is you. You've got the goods. You are good enough. You are lovable. Committed. And so you need to then focus on that good element and not focus on the why, the gossiping, the triangulation, the email posts, the pictures, searching them out, finding, keeping little things around to keep them as little mementos or other things. And feeling, why? You can't have an identity without getting rid of these? Yes, you can. You're not, you might just say, guess what? I'm not a zookeeper. I honestly am not a zookeeper. I do not keep, I don't keep these things around. That is not my style. You can say it as easy as that, but it can't be that easy. Well, a breakthrough will be that easy once you kind of understand the profile and understand some of the elements, especially perhaps some of the seductive thinking that keeps people stuck, the way that they look at things. Everything is hyper arousal, hyper seductive. Things change meaning. It's like an altered reality. Love is the drug I'm thinking of. No, this is not love. This is psychopathic scoping, and basically they're basically giving you the skunk stun gun, man or woman, even if that stun gun was a wedding ring, a house, a beautiful bedroom set, whatever it was, you have to get a parallel between the two. And it was not, a good romance. It was not a beautiful wedding ring. It is not a dream come true. It's just, basically, it's just sort of not even of the physicality of what you would consider. If that, so you just will understand that they aren't there in any sort of matter form. And that devoid, though, what's very interesting is that it creates an extreme or emphasis on the other. So, like, where they're devoid, their amygdala, like it creates an extreme amount of fear and just the complete polar opposite in the people. Fear, just that hyper arousal. Your eyes, always up. You can't sleep. You're hyper aroused. The outings, the sexual encounters, all whatever that you were going to. All that sort of behavior is again about trying to compute to the bottom line. Look at the top line. You have emotion, warmth, fun, consideration, spontaneity, joy, inspiration, and freedom in this truth. So those are the very components that someone who is psychopathic does not possess, and basically they look at and mimic and study and do for others, and they will get other people bound up into that reality. Uh, and and oftentimes it will require a lot of planning, and then again, some very important things, but just, drop the hot potato, drop the ice cube, and don't throw the hot potato, don't throw the ice cube. If you have to get some leverage on yourself, and when you do, you will have it in like a gustral change, meaning in your being, in your vagus nerve, which wraps all the way around your guttural feeling, will begin to improve. Like you'll begin to do abdominal breathing. For a lot of people, there's a lot of anxiety that is tied up in those people who have been abused, lied to, not living their truth. So if you've not been living your truth, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You're going to relax into it. That might sound scary because for a lot of people, last time they relaxed, they got in trouble. Things went the wrong direction, or you find themselves repeatedly attracted and doing more for others and finding themselves. So you might have to quit it on the alligators and the snakes, or whatever analogy works for you. The pitcher of ice, you don't want to be married to that. That's not a human relationship. The volcano, you don't want to have that in your living room so that your every thing that you worked for is ruined by emotional lava that's just burning everything in its path, making it null and void. And it's attractive because of the addiction. There's a physicality, I think, that a lot of people get into, and then they're worried, am I going to feel dead, empty? Is it going to be so uncomfortable to live without this lifestyle, without this identity, or whatever else you have threaded into that experience, and you're trying to claim now. So you're still trying to claim, you're still trying to claim a code from the chars, and you're holding on to the hanger. You're not going to get what you're thinking to restore you from pulling at that direction, even though your body might be used to it. You have to realize that your body is like, that's been habituated, and it's okay to say, because it'll keep perpetuating until you realize the many ways and the many layers that it influences your breathing, your anatomy, and the breathing, especially in the abdomen. People, of course, the 8-pack of abs. I mean, I used to do hundreds of stomach crunches, in my 20s and 30s. I mean, it was one of my favorite exercises. Hey, guess what? If you do that, you're going to hold a lot of anxiety. Anything that you do with repetition and experience is going to be stronger and stronger. So if you've done fear for a long time, then fear is going to be sort of wound up pretty tight. Like, you got to unwind it and get it off the tree, get that yellow ribbon off the tree or whatever it is it's tied on, and let it go free, bye-bye, and realize that you have to then, what you might feel is even make attractive, unattractive, what you felt, had to be attractive parts of you. So, especially, realize that you might have worked very hard, or you might have a lot invested in this relationship, or your identity, you might have fostered and created and sort of interwoven. You are you and you are free. You have your identity and you are whole and complete. It is living in this denial that's part of the psychopath relationship or narcissist, is that you're like half a puzzle piece, and that you can only be a full picture if you, lock arms. And you have to get to a little bit of centeredness in that you are good enough, lovable, and that you don't have to give this away to, the next alligator, the next snake, the next ice cube, the next volcano, whatever it is that you want to equate and this to, and perpetuate that addiction, or what might seem like the lifestyle, and you might have infatuated about it. You might have, seen that you have groomed yourself for it, where then you have to drop the potato, drop the merchandise, and drop the aim, drop the focus, and then drop the, the sucking it up, and realize what are some of the effects for you. Not just understanding, but if you can get it very simplified, it's going to help and expedite your healing. It can help and expedite your healing. So a lot of people, another trait of a psychopath is high risk behavior. High risk behavior, whether it's monetary risk, physical risk, sexual risk, exciting, business ventures, vacations. They do not like to be bored. Always doing something. Always, always. This person has so much energy. How could they have 3 jobs? How could they, you don't, and then, so that's a good question, and you should be suspect. But sometimes these people are the last suspect, or they don't want to be suspect, and so hence they have a lot of duplicity going on. But the high risk behavior, a lot of people think that they're attracted to. They think they want. They believe that's the good life. They think that's what they're working for. On Facebook, on TikTok, Uber Dash, Dine and Dash, whatever all the, different things are, okay? Whatever. And you might have a lot. In fact, you might say peace and harmony. This is, so much. Okay? Okay, no, your life is where it is supposed to be right now, and it is big and strong enough. But you must see the different composite that you are compared to this differential. You must understand then that you might have then been not so much in love, or that feeling, or whatever it is you had thought. It was more of a seduction, a high risk, things that you might think is what is the, I want to be stuck on Facebook, or everybody else, there's all these other thought processes that go. But what is the harm of thinking for yourself that's good, that's like, I don't need this cold fish. I don't need this volcano. I can't have an alligator. I am not a good match for a snake. I am not good marriage partners, even if you're already there. So, and that's okay. It's okay to say it's just okay, and just to decide, and just to allow, and then have a breakthrough. and allow a little glimmer of truth to shine through and hang your hat upon a star. If you haven't noticed, there's a lot of mystery and beauty and other things that are true and satisfying that you can do and be productive and have results by, within, and that you don't have to judge that, because I think oftentimes people who are having a difficult time getting unhooked, unstuck, convincing themselves beyond the shadow of a doubt is they don't have enough leverage. They don't see that the alligator for the swamp. They don't see the swamp for a swamp. They don't see evil for the evil, because oftentimes there's so much of the false, public persona that the psychopath has as their reality. But reality it is not. Do not fall for it. Be able to trust your gut for once, for the first time in 5 years, for the first time in your life. Whatever it is, I learned to trust. I don't know what trust is, peace and harmony. Then let's learn. I can't believe I'm an adult and I have to learn this. Don't worry about it, okay? So what? That is, you are no longer the log of consumption. You are no longer, you are no longer the log that's being consumed by the fire of this destructive individual. Oh, but they're so productive. They have this, this, and this. Well, what about, and if you keep going back and forth, you're going to keep yourself in a lot of murky area for a long period of time. And believe me, it's a lot of people who do not want to see that or cannot, they will fall back and fall back and fall back. And there'll be one with a little heart emoji, a little perfume. There'll be one with a little dinner. You can't control yourself over a whiff of perfume? A heart emoji? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You're saying, you're admitting to yourself, it's not working, but you're still working on it. You're saying in your heart, that you should have known this anyway, and you do know this, and it's okay to know, even if you were in that state of denial, and that's okay. That is, you're a human being. It doesn't make you less than, behind, never gonna make it, all these other ultimatums that you might be trying to slap on yourself of judgment. So that's erroneous and flawed thinking, but that's oftentimes fear speaking, okay, through the doubt. But you're going to give yourself a chance once you are able to say and give yourself some credit that I know beyond the shadow of a doubt. And even if you've never known anything before, I've never known anything. I've been told I'm unbelievable. I don't know what belief is. All these things. It's too difficult. We got to learn to slow down the roll there, okay? Those are flawed. Those are all the seeds. Those are like all the meadows of the doubt and the fear that you're still sitting in. Like, you've thrown out the seeds of I'm not good enough, I'm, or all that they have said or planted about you that were flawed, and then you're trying to then reaping that harvest. Well, what about a little bit of manifestation? What about of letting go of some doubt? What then do you get? So sometimes it's got to be the gentle unrolling, of where are you clinging on? Either in your eyes, are you still holding on? Are you still, where are you? And then where are you still and not flowing? And so a lot of that is in the breathing, because, and you might want to look in your body, where for years have you been, putting something as a barrier in between you and living your truth? You might have put a lot of food, a lot of drinks, a lot of drugs, a lot of compulsive spending, relationships that didn't work. You might have created a lot of your own obstacles. It's okay. You can create your own obstacles and just, remove and accept responsibility and say it's okay. I've got this. And until you can, breathe, I've got this. And then I am good. I am good for this. And until you begin to rekindle some of these things that perhaps you haven't heard, felt, or known for a long period of time. I am man enough. I am woman enough. I am enough. And then just begin to run that a little bit and allow that to be and unfold. Then you'll realize that aren't so attracted to being addicted to a relationship, a lifestyle, a way of showing up. And that's okay. You're not a good match. It's not fitting the bill, and it's okay for you to make that proclamation and stand up for your own, even if you haven't been able to say that. Admit it. Put it out there. Because they will make people feel helpless. And all these, I'm helpless, I'm hopeless. And you'll be feeling these things and dragging it around with you like a grandfather or grandmother clock, and as if it has some sort of sentimental value. Well, let's make it digital. Let's let go of whatever 20,000 pounds. Literally, you might have junk in your garage. You might literally have a lot of stuff, food that you need to throw out. Start clear, like physically, even if you can handle it for 5 minutes. Begin to breathe in, I am clear. I am in clarity. And even if that scares you, and say, I am feeling the fear. I am alive. I have courage. I'm feeling the fear, but I'm doing it anyway. And even if it's breath by breath, good for you. You're doing that's okay. There's going to be some discomfort. Breath by breath, and you might have to sort of then get in the clear, get in the valley, get out, get over the mountains, get through the mountains, move some mountains, whatever that is. You are bigger, better, stronger. And you don't have to prove it to them. You just have to know it within. Because really, truth has a way of ringing free. And oftentimes that's the resolution, meaning you don't have to be tied up and involved or have the identity. So your I am, you might have to get to that and then realize where a lot of your identity had taken a detour and saying, okay, to what degree am, and then sort of parcel things off and get, some reason within and say what is an appropriate amount, of this and this and this, and just get appropriate. And, realizing, when things get extreme, and then have a go-to. When this happens, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that instead, and have something more productive for yourself to go right into. So you have that next step momentum that will help you being more clear and being able to heal and not being attracted to some sort of fallacy thinking, feeling, behaving, or becoming that was more getting in the way than was really the truth and the brilliance that you were becoming. They're kind of like a little bit of an eclipse, and then you get to see the full sun when a lot of that sort of lifestyle relationship sort of begins to fade away. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day. You got this.